All right, happy Friday. We are here. It is Well Fed by Food Entrepreneur. I'm here with Corrine Calice, PhD, the Senior Director of Knowledge and Learning Experiences with the Institute of Food Technologists. And I'm just going to introduce you to our audience, Corrine, and we'll dive into our conversation today. So Corrine has 20 years of experience in leadership, management, and teaching in higher education, government, and the association space. She earned her PhD in rhetoric and digital media from Wayne State University in Detroit. As Senior Director of Knowledge and Learning Experiences at the Institute of Food Technologists, Corrine oversees the development of all educational programming for professionals in the science of food, as well as IFT's annual Global Food System Challenge and Certified Food Scientist credential. So you do a lot of things and you wear a lot of hats, and I really appreciate you being here today to talk about ingredient trends and innovations, and as well as kind of provide a little preview for IFT FIRST for those who are unfamiliar with the event or maybe on the fence about attending at this point, since it's coming up in about 6 weeks.
Something like that? Middle of July. Mm-hmm.
Middle of July. Okay, cool. And I actually failed to introduce myself. I'm Monica Watrous. I'm the managing editor of Food Business News and Food Entrepreneur. And why don't we go ahead and get started? So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about what IFT FIRST is for those who aren't familiar with the event?
Sure. And a lot of people, if you haven't been to the event recently or you've never been to the event, some folks who are familiar with IFT or the Institute of Food Technologists brand associate the organization IFT with the event. So FIRST is a new rebranding of the event. A lot of people just call it IFT. And so that might create a little bit of confusion. People may be thinking, what is this FIRST? Well, it's IFT's annual event and expo. And it is a really fabulous meeting where science of food professionals from industry, government, and academia come together to debate and discuss science and new innovations, walk the floor, explore ingredients and technologies, collaborate on key issues. It's a really fun and energetic conference that brings together problem solving, real world problem solving with business and education.
Yeah, it's happening at McCormick Place in Chicago. I know it's been rotating in the past at different cities. And about how many exhibitors are usually there?
We typically get about 2,000 exhibitors. This year, we're expanding our startup alley, so our startup pavilion, rather. So it is growing. We're really excited about the growth of the startup pavilion. So we're expecting about 100 startups in addition to our, 2,000 exhibitors, and we get about 20,000 people to our event. So it's a big show.
It's an awesome turnout. This will be, maybe my 8th year, I think, attending the show. So it's always really just so interesting to see even like some of the educational sessions that are very academia focused and super like just academic, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's just really fascinating and very educational. A lot of different objectives can be met depending on who you are and where you come from in the industry. Now with the Startup Pavilion, so that was a new feature last year. And can you tell me about like why the IFT decided to create this dedicated space to startups and how that whole thing works?
Yeah, and it's actually been we've been doing it for a few years. So last year wasn't actually the first year that we started to bring the startup community into our event. But I'm sure, as you're aware, startups have been an emerging, like a major market force in the food industry. And IFT did a research project a few years ago on food science education degree programs, And we found that 35% of new graduates in food science are considering entrepreneurship as a career path. And also, we also find that an awful lot of food startups are not familiar with IFT and all that we offer to assist them in building their business, finding suppliers or partners, getting to market, staying compliant with food laws and regulations. We want to be sure to spread the word that IFT is the place to be. And IFT FIRST is the sort of hub or convening center, especially for food and beverage startups, because they may not have a food science professional on their staff. And often, I think it's what you don't know that can present a real challenge in getting your product to market or in making your business successful. And IFT has education, networking, and resources to help food companies, both large and small. And the meeting is makes it really convenient to meet all these important folks and get informed.
Yeah. So I remember last year's Startup Pavilion, there were startups across the value chain from, like upcycled ingredient suppliers to, agriculture solution provider, to the finished product. So it was a whole really interesting mix. Is that what you're expecting again for this year?
Definitely. The food value chain is really complicated. And there are so many different, everything right from engineering to regulatory compliance, to new ingredients and formulation. It's so complicated and we do actually serve the entire ecosystem. So we do see startups, and also in our global food system challenge, very similar. I'm seeing folks, innovations from across the food value chain, who are bringing innovation to market in ways that are helping to drive efficiencies or improved health and nutrition or sustainability initiatives, et cetera.
Since you mentioned the global food system challenge, can you talk a little bit more about what that is and what you're looking for? And are applications still open for that?
Actually, applications don't open until June 1st.
Oh, beautiful. So okay, great timing.
Exactly. They open June 1st and they close August 1st. And of course, the information is on our website, ift.org. So the Global Food System Challenge is an annual innovation competition that's funded by the Seeding the Future Foundation. It offers $1 million a year in grants and prizes for organizations, academic institutions, startups, or nonprofits from all over the world who are working in the intersection between three critical domains. And that is healthy, food, health, and nutrition. So healthy foods for a healthy planet, so sustainability, that are acceptable to consumers. So, if you created a fabulously sustainable and nutritious grain, for example, but nobody wanted it, it wouldn't matter. You have to have something that people are willing to eat, that's affordable, and that this particular challenge is distinct in that specific, very sort of niche focus area. So, for example, the Global Food System Challenge wouldn't fund a new candy, right? It just wouldn't fit into even if it was made from recycled or upcycled ingredients, it still wouldn't fit into the goals of the challenge.
Gotcha. And so to that end, what are some of the biggest food system challenges that you're looking to solve?
Yeah, so food insecurity and obesity are two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. And they are significantly impacted also by economic, environmental, geopolitical sort of challenges or crises. So one of the things that I'm really proud of this year, the IFT FIRST event, is focusing on innovation in the face of crisis. And I think it's really timely. We've got so many different crises, whether they're supply chain constraints or, legal. We're seeing a titanium dioxide issue sort of bubble up right now, right? All kinds of different challenges that food product developers and entrepreneurs have to face in order to try to bring healthy food to market and address things like climate change or geopolitical conflict. So it's really exciting to see how resilient the community is and how innovative the interdisciplinary teams that we've been seeing come through the challenge. We're seeing everything from cold chain solutions in sub-Saharan Africa to improved chicken feed for improved egg production and higher nutrition eggs, to really innovative distribution models like leveraging the US Postal Service to get unused fruits and vegetables from local farms out to their communities. So a really broad range of innovations in terms of thinking, in terms of technology, in terms of systems thinking. It's been a really satisfying program to work on.
Amazing. So as far as startups, you mentioned you know why they may benefit from getting involved with IFT, attending IFT FIRST, in the way of making those connections, understanding how to source the ingredients. They don't have product developers on their team necessarily. What are some of the other benefits that an emerging brand might gain from attending?
This is my favorite tidbit. The very first year we started to have a startup exhibition opportunity, and it has since grown since then. We had companies tell us that they met their annual sales goals in the 3 days that they were at our event. Wow. One company had to hire a new sales manager on the spot because they couldn't keep up with orders. We've seen people have a successful exit if they were looking for an exit. We've seen folks find suppliers that they, when they were looking for some sort of either a niche ingredient or to kind of create some more resiliency in their own supply chain to find backup suppliers and what have you. The other thing we're seeing, and this is a very interesting and new feature of IFT, we offer a new service called concierge service. And one of the things we're finding is a trend is lots of folks need help finding co-packers. And our concierge service will help startups or even not startups identify the co-packers that are in the space that they're working in within the parameters that they're looking to leverage and get their product to market. So we're helping folks commercialize from end to end, really.
Yeah, amazing. And especially now, it's so important to build resilient supply chains and have just all of your stuff in order, because it has been a challenging few years for food companies. So, do you still have open tables in the startup pavilion, or are you all booked up for that?
Oh no, there is room. Yep. Okay. Yep. We are capping it at 100 this year, and I will tell you that we're well, actually I don't work for sales, so I might have misspoken. Maybe it's not a cap, but that's our goal is 100. And we are getting close to the number, but there is space available, and it's really, really cost effective. Again,
that's what I've heard.
I don't have a sales sheet in front of me, but it's really a great deal because there's a ton of value, and everybody who participates in the Startup Pavilion has the opportunity to participate in our speed pitch event. Mm-hmm. And we're, for the first time ever, doing a VIP networking event. It's a funders and founders networking opportunity, if you will, where we're bringing venture capitalists, philanthropists, innovation center executives, et cetera, to meet with all of these startups that are exhibiting at no additional, fee, or they don't have to do anything except just show up. And we help them put their booths together and, get in front of the right people. So it's an amazing value. I wish everybody knew that our Startup Pavilion existed.
Yeah, I didn't know all that. So I'll do my part to help get the word out. That really is amazing. And so okay, so that's in order to apply for exhibition space, they go to ift.org. Is there a special place to find?
Golly. So IFT, I'm sorry.
So I put you on the spot with that one. We can follow up. I can when we for the replay. I'll have all the
it's iftevent.org for the event, and then
Oh,
ift.org. But you can always just go to ift.org because that's really easy to remember, and then click on first, and that'll take you to the whole event website. And there's a exhibit button that lets you kind of take a look at the different exhibitor opportunities, and you can sort of read through, I guess you would call it a spec sheet
yeah.
for exhibitors. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, perfect. That's really that's great. Okay, so I think I called this event "What are the hottest ingredient trends and innovations?" It's kind of a clickbaity headline, but I think that's what people are really interested in learning about. Now we talked about it. You said that's not necessarily your area of focus, but your colleagues at IFT certainly are in the know about some of these things. So, from your perspective and from talking to your colleagues, what are some of the trending ingredients that you've been seeing and expect to see at the show?
One of the things that I think is interesting is there's been sort of a buzz for years and years around salt reduction and sugar reduction, but we're starting to see more activity in that area. Companies seem to be circling back to it, and I don't know if it's post-COVID or we know that there's a consumer interest, but I am seeing salt reduction and sugar reduction as a trend. Obviously, alternative proteins and any kind of plant-based formulation, and the kinds of ingredients that help with, say, masking off flavors or that help with texture. Those are hot. Functional ingredients are very attractive to consumers. So a lot of food product developers are looking for ways to bring functionality into their products so that they, can sort of help meet some of those consumer demands. Mm-hmm. But we have everything from colors and flavors to oils and emulsifiers and enzymes, and we don't just do the hot ingredients. It's also like the foundational things that you need in order to bring a product to market.
Absolutely. All of that is very important. And I mean, to the point about like sugar and salt reduction, I feel like there's been like an evolution of needs around some of these things. Like we're hearing more about some of the sweeteners that may not be, studies are coming out saying, well, some of these sweetener replacements aren't necessarily solving the issues that the industry needs to solve. You talked about the titanium dioxide issue and what are some of the color replacers that we can, or things that we can use in place of that. Some of the new legislation that's mandating some of these alternatives. So it'll be interesting to see how developers are answering the call for some of these needs.
Yeah, it's always a moving target. You think you have a stable formulation, and then all of a sudden there's a shift in the regulatory landscape, or there's a shift in the consumer landscape or the supply chain. So even if you have a really top selling formulation, you still need to keep on your toes to figure out how you can do a replacement or spin up a new vertical, or what's going to happen, what's going to change in your product if you bring in a hot new flavor. Could change the texture, it could change your shelf life. All of those features that, in order to stay nimble and resilient, you really have to stay on your toes.
Yeah, definitely. And some of you mentioned functional ingredients. I know some of those come with their own flavor challenges. And so that's, it's a whole system that people need to look into. And I think I seem to remember seeing some of that last year, some of the adaptogens in prototypes that exhibitors were showcasing. So I'd be curious to see how that evolves this year, and if we see more of like ashwagandha formulations and then the flavor masking technology to help with that, because that is a pretty strong flavor.
Yeah, and in addition, the other, sort of prebiotic and probiotic trends, all the whole microbiome and omics research, this is one of those places where you can find the ingredient on the floor and get educated on it upstairs. And we also have a full library of recorded scientific presentations. So if you can't get to everything upstairs because you're busy on the floor, you can return to those pre-recorded educational sessions and get the deep science. And as you mentioned earlier, Monica, we also have, so there is a lot of deep science at IFT, but it's not all, over everybody's head. But I'm really proud of our poster area and our research showcase stage. We have researchers from all around the world exhibiting at the research showcase stage, and have a robust scientific program. And then in the last 2 years, we've transformed the way that our educational sessions work so that we're using more of a conversational model. We're calling them the scientific and technical forums this year. So we start with a 1 minute, almost like a Cliff's Notes version of those hard science presentations, and then launch into kind of a mediated, moderated discussion among the researchers who are working in synergistic ways. So it's really engaging and contemporary, if you will, model that you're not seeing in hardly any other conferences. You still see a lot of what I call sage on the stage, and this is more like guide on the side.
I love that. Yeah, no, I have noticed that. And the other thing that I've noticed about the education evolving recently is that there's a lot of more business focused sessions, and there's it's almost like organized by business. And
yeah.
So can you talk about maybe why a bigger focus on some of these topics that weren't covered that deeply in the past?
Yeah, one of the things is we really wanted to make sure that we were bringing value to our exhibitors. So coming to our event isn't just about standing on the floor all day and selling. We want to make sure that you're getting value, meeting the people that you need to meet, but also learning about how to grow your business, or what some of the business-centric, issues are. So we actually spun up a new, if you will, it's a new vertical for us, called Business First. And these are short format, business-centric presentations that are held right on the show floor. And that way, someone who is an exhibitor or maybe a startup who is just launching or, has been in the market for a couple of years, but is still new and still could use some of the sage wisdom or advice from folks who've been at it for a long time. They can just step right over into the Business First area right on the show floor without having to really have a disruption in experience. And we also have an area on the show floor called the fireside chats, which are sort of like trends. They're sort of trends and hot topics. And those are set up as conversational, a little bit more informal, very, very well attended. And new this year, I'll keep plugging, but we have an innovation lab, which is an integrated, immersive experience. You come in and you get to your choice of consumers that you pick, and you're given a product development challenge, and you can go from station to station and view our educational programming right there on an iPad or on the screen that relates to the product development challenge that you're looking to solve, so that you can take, and we've got subject matter experts there to help sort of coach and guide your product development. And you have to consider, what if you have a supply chain challenge? What if you have a regulatory challenge? What if, it's a sort of simulation of resiliency, innovation in the face of crisis, right? That's the theme. And then at the end, we have a graphic artist, a graphic note taker, as well as an AI image generator to create a prototype of your product by the time you're done. So it's this kind of like museum walkthrough experience for folks who want to get the full sort of integrated everything that the show has, from ingredients to research to, consulting and that sort of thing, all in one sort of fun walkthrough experience on the show floor.
That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Are there any other features that we didn't get to talk about yet for the show that you're excited about?
Oh gosh, there are so many. But we are doing some really intentional networking this year.
Mhm.
And also, we've heard from past attendees, our show can be overwhelming. It's a really big event. And for those of you who have been in the past, there used to be, like 100 simultaneously scheduled scientific program sessions, for example. We've really worked to make that much easier to navigate. And we've created these new journeys so that depending upon what your goals are, you kind of get a cheat sheet, if you will, that will help you hone in on which exhibitors are must sees for you, which scientific sessions fit according to your interests and your goals, et cetera, as well as what intentional networking. And we've got all kinds of new meetups. And this year we've also integrated all of our like our parties, if you will, not of course the ones that are hosted by companies or universities, but the IFT social events. We now have everything in one place so that you don't have to buy separate tickets for all these different social events. So you can network all in one place really easily, meet the people you need to meet, and make it efficient and fun.
Nice. Amazing. Great. Well, I'm excited for the show. And I really appreciate you running through some of the features, some of the reasons why startups should consider attending, more about the Startup Pavilion and how to get involved there, as well as the Global Food System Challenge. So IFT First, it's July 16th through 19th in Chicago. People can find out more at IFT.org or IFTevent.org. IFT.org for just more about the Institute of Food.
IFT.org for the Institute of Food Technologists in general, and IFTevent.org for the meeting.
Beautiful. Great. Well, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a fabulous holiday weekend.
Thank you. You too.
See ya.
See you there.